I'm learning how to automate my business. I'm starting with n8n and I'm bringing you with me. So we're going to jump into how I build my first workflow, and you will see all of my learnings and my mistakes and my getting stuck and then my diagnosis, because I thought that was going to be more helpful than a polished tutorial that you can't necessarily connect with. So you see my mistakes, my problems, how I fix things, how I resolve things, and how I get to a kind of minimum viable workflow. I'll do a summary at the end, and I hope you find it helpful. We're jumping in at the point where I've already created my free trial. So we're just getting straight into using n8n. To sign up for your own free trial, find the link in the comments below. Okay, so I want to demonstrate my n8n account and my learnings, but I can't do that with my existing ServiceM8 account because it contains all of my client details in it. So I have logged into my ServiceM8 demo account, which just contains dummy information. So now I need to work out how to add a new credential. n8n refers to kind of connections with tools as a credential. So we've got add new credential, and we've got ServiceM8. Okay, so now from memory, we have to go find the API key. And ServiceM8 actually published this not so long ago. They put this extra setting in here. So I've come to account and settings, and if I go to API key, then I can add one, and I'm going to call it n8n testing, and I'll call it full access. Copy that, pop it in there. I'll leave this as yes. Let's check the settings. That's fine. We'll close these down and connection, save. Hopefully this will work. Okay, connection tested successfully. So that implies that that's working. I'm going to see if I can rename it. I wonder if I can rename it. There we go. Okay. So I want to rename it so that it's clear that it's the demo account. So that's clickable and editable, and I've made the changes, clicked out, and I can hit save. Perfect. Okay. So that's that bit done. If I go back to overview, let's now look at creating a new workflow. So the workflow I want to replace from Zapier and put in here is that if I come and show you, if I add a job to a queue, so let's say we add a job to the parts on order queue, I want n8n to automatically send out an email, ideally to the customer, to let them know, so that you can just drop things into queues and you can use these as kind of status updates to the customer. So in my live account for ServiceM8, I've got a Hazel to review folder, and the jobs get put in there if I need a little bit more time to review them. So it's kind of holding email to say, I've got your email, I'll be in touch. So that's what I want to do. It's currently built in Zapier, but I want to do it in n8n. So in terms of n8n, what I know as much as the same as the other automation tools is that you work with trigger and action pairs. So a trigger would be adding a job to the queue, and then the action would be sending the email. So the first step is going to be the trigger. What triggers this workflow? So I know I've got ServiceM8, and I'm going to have to work this out at some point. And then we want on job added to queue. So I know that I've got two credentials in here. This is my live account and this is my demo account, so it's correctly added this one, and job added to queue. What I don't have is a filter or anything for which queue yet, but I'll work that out. If we hit settings, no, So I'll hit execute step next. I'm still learning as I go, and it's listening. I need to add something to a queue in my demo account so that it can see that a job has been added to a queue. And hopefully it'll pick it up. It seems to still be listening. So let me try adding another one. Okay. Now it's implying that it hasn't seen the event. Okay, so if I go back to the canvas and how do I save? I think it auto saves. For now, I'm going to give it a name. So test job added to add job to queue sends email. So give it a reasonable name and I'll tag it with ServiceM8. Okay, so let's just come out of that. It seems to have saved it. Let's try and test it again, because sometimes it's a timing thing. It's always difficult to know whether it's timing related or whether you've done something wrong, or whether it's kind of caching, whether it's waiting for the memory of the server or the browser to update. So it seems to be waiting. If I refresh this page next, maybe that will make a difference. Okay, and then if I add another job to this particular queue, and we'll see whether it sees it. There we go. Okay, so it's seen it. That's a good sign. So the fact that it's ticked it means that it's seen it. So if I click into this, double clicked, I can then see what the output is. So it's seen that the event was job queued. It's got an ID, type, and then it's got various details from the last job card I added. It picked up this one. Okay. So that has an email. Fortunately, that has an email that doesn't work. Okay, so we might need to make some changes there. So we've got ID there. Did we have any contact details? So this was the problem that I first encountered when I first started exploring this. ServiceM8 hadn't added all of the details. So on this job that was added, I couldn't then see any contact details of the customer. Okay. So they told me a few weeks ago that they'd updated the API at their end. And because I'm still learning n8n, I didn't know whether I would need to do anything to see that change. But they basically, off the back of my email, added this to the API in terms of what it surfaces when a job is sent over here. So perfect. Okay, so I've got an email address. Brilliant. Okay, so that's a good test. So if I go back to the canvas, the next thing I want to do is I want it to be more specific about which job queue it uses, because I don't want just the email to go off the back of any job queue. So I need some kind of filter. Okay. So I've started typing filter and I've got filter. So I want to say drag an input field from the left to use it here. Okay, so if I find my queue name, job queued, if I type in queue, maybe there is the name. Perfect. Okay, so we've got the name here, parts on order. Okay, so dragging and dropping does the JSON. Perfect. Is equal to, and I just want it to send off the back of parts on order, so I'm just going to try typing that in. I don't need any other conditions. I'm going to execute the step, and then it tells me whether it kept the item or discarded it. So if I just change that to parts, oh, let's test for capitalization, because I don't know whether that matters. If I just have parts on order without a capital O, let's have a look at that and see if that works. No, okay, so it's case sensitive. That's interesting. Equal to. So I suppose if you changed it to contains, it would probably be alright. Okay, so this filter condition is case sensitive, so I can prove that further by changing to the case, and we can see it kept it. So brilliant. Okay, one thing I'm trying to get used to is the fact that I don't seem to have to save anything. So to come out of this, I just seem to hit back to canvas, and it's quite alien. Okay, so again on the canvas, this is the canvas, it's confirmed that it's kept the item we wanted. So our final step is going to be to send the email. So I suppose we'll just start typing email and see what comes up. Okay, so this implies that n8n has a similar function to Zapier. So Zapier has its own kind of tools that you can use, that you don't necessarily have to connect your Outlook or your Gmail. You can just send an email from Zapier. And so this looks like it's the equivalent. So of the two actions, I just want to send an email. And okay, so now it's asking for a credential, so maybe it does need a proper email tool set up with it. Let's have a look at the docs, see what they say. SMTP email server. Okay, so it does need you to use your own email. Okay, so I'm just trying to think what's going to be the simplest way to test this. I wonder if it might be... Okay, let's come out of this. I'm going to delete that, because as far as I can see, you execute that step, I think you switch on and off, and then you can delete them there. So let's try a slightly different approach. Now I've got a personal email address, but my business email is run through Outlook. That's Outlook. Do we have Office? No, Office 365. Now I could go and find my SMTP server details. I'm just going to pause this a second. Okay, so I was having a look in my live ServiceM8 account to see if I could see any SMTP details that were live from my Office 365, but I couldn't. So there might be some settings that I can use with my login. Okay, so it may be Outlook that I could find the generic sending server and then just use my login details. I know that they're changing this at the moment. Okay, so we could try this. So knowing that I use Office 365, and I think a lot of this is trial and error. See a lot of people doing videos on polished, finishing, this is how to do it, but I don't see very many videos that just is somebody working it out. And do I create a new credential? Okay, so I would imagine that I'll get closer if I put in my Office 365 details. Hang on 2 secs, I'll go find the password. Okay, so I found some login details for what I think is Office 365. It said the host. That's going to be IMAP. This is probably our closest bet. I have no idea whether this is going to work, so we'll have to C together. Port 587, let's try that. That's just security, TLS and SSL. Client hostname. We get any clues? I need help filling out the yes I do. Email account, service supports, SMTP. Okay, the host. Perfect. Port. Okay, 587. I think that's what it said I needed. Yep. No encryption. Okay. Perfect. Client hostname. If needed by a provider, add a client hostname. Identifies the client to the server. Okay, let's leave it blank for now and just see how we get on. So, let's hit save. Okay, couldn't connect. More details. Error, wrong version number. Okay, let's switch that off because I think it's the wrong port for SSL TLS because it was talking about start TLS. Let's save that again. Testing, come on. Okay, invalid login. Okay, we're closer. So I've used that. Okay, I'm going to go and have a look for another password. Hang on. Okay, I'm not entirely certain how to get past this authentication unsuccessful because I can't find a different password. So I think what we'll do is we'll see if we can find an easier method to test the process, because you have to find a way of breaking the problem down, and I want to see that the workflow just works overall. So if I go back to Canvas and I'll get rid of this, if I press delete, let's just see if we can prove the concept. That's what we have to do first. So the easiest way I can think to prove the concept is to use my personal Gmail account. It's not ideal and it's not intended for the final workflow, but I want to prove the concept first and then I can dig back into the details. So for this we want to send a message, and I'm going to want to connect to my personal Gmail account. Now it's implying that I've already connected a Gmail account. So let's just go and have a look. I'm going to come back out of this for now, and I've got to remind myself where I need to go to look for the credentials. So I don't think it's variables. Admin panel? Cancel, no. So we want to save it. We've got to be careful. Sometimes it seems to auto-save and sometimes it doesn't. So let's go to the admin panel. Okay. Manage? No. Okay, so that's not the right place. Okay. Let's go back into the instance. Credentials, there we go, there's our list of credentials. And we've got a Gmail account. Okay. So I click on that. Okay, so I've connected my own personal Gmail account at some point. So perfect. That means I can go back to workflows. Let's complete this step then. So I'm going to click back into here and I'll allow it to do that. Send. Now, I want to send it ideally to the customer that's listed on the job card, but for that I need input data. So if I hit execute previous nodes, what that should do is that should pull through the information from the previous nodes, but it's not. Okay. Nope, don't want that. Okay, let's just try and waiting for you to create an event. Okay. Please users. Can I just play this one? Okay. It doesn't like. Okay, let's deactivate that. What I want it to do is just execute the previous steps so that I've got some data to grab. Okay, I might need to add another trigger event. So if I go back and if I go to all jobs, let's have a look for, there we go. Oh no, let's change this to my work email. And let's add this to our parts on order queue. And then if I go back to here, hopefully that's going to pick it up. Okay, let's try another one. Close. Let's just refresh the page, see whether that's it. No, so it's given up. Okay, so let's try that again. Let's try and execute the workflow. Then it wants me to send something into a queue. So we're going to add that to our parts on order queue. There we go. Cool. Okay. So that's sent that through there and skipped right to the end. If I there we go. Now that I've clicked back into this, I've got my details. Brilliant. Okay. So I wonder if there's an email address. There we go. Haha, job contacts. So a job contact there. So what I should be able to do is just drag and drop that there. And subject. Your parts are now on order. Going to keep it really simple. I was going to put an exclamation mark, but I don't want to give it any reason to reject it because of spam. We've got email type, text or HTML. Again, I'm going to just stick to simple text. We want to prove the concept. Thanks for choosing us to install your bathroom, to, let's say, to renovate your bathroom, your parts to, let's keep it more generic. So I can't hit enter. Okay, so we've got options and things. Okay, so you can do send the name, BCC, attachments, send replies to. Okay, so there's loads of options. So I think I've done enough. Let's just check the settings. Execute once. Okay, now why is... Okay, so I believe that's saved. I believe... Okay, I thought you could pin data so that you can reuse it, but I'm not sure how to. So I think I've filled out those settings. So if I hit back to Canvas and switch it on again, let's just double click into it again. Okay, we've still got our step. So if I hit execute step, oh okay, that's a good sign. Input split is not a function item. Handy, okay. I do not know what that means. So, next thing to do, input split. Let's do a search, see if there's a search on this page. No, input, split, could be hidden in here. Okay. Execution failed. There's not a function item 0. Okay. So it could be a problem with the fact that it's looks to be looking for the first part of an array. Because I just want it to find the email. So I don't know whether the problem is here generally. I think what I'll do is I will take this and Google it. Okay, so what is this telling me? Source data pulled from a previous node when it gets to receive the split error. To a message. Okay, indicates split value that isn't a string. Okay, so this is a community post for a chap called David. Skip to the answer. Okay, full message. It's giving details. There doesn't seem to be an answer. There's no answer. Okay, that's helpful. Yeah, so it is to do with the fact, I think, that it's seeing an array. Okay, so this is where the learning curve is steep, because I don't know whether this is correct. So it could be that ServiceM8 are surfacing this information as an array and they don't need to, or that's wrong, or, you know, their API response is still in development. Or it could be that I'm doing something wrong and I don't know which one it is. I feel like, because we're talking about splits, and I can see that this is an array, so this is the first part of an array job contacts. I think that's the case because of the square brackets. It could be that it just doesn't like that. Now, sometimes you are best just playing. So let's just try this instead, job contacts, and not try and split the array, just try and we'll see how that goes. Okay, so it's still complaining, so that's not the result. Just for giggles, I'm just going to add this in. Okay, let's keep step still. Okay, so can we get any more information from the error details? It seems to be complaining about the fact that it's got. Now I could, again, just to take it back a step, just to prove the concept, I could try and just put my work email in here and just, if I turn it into fixed rather than expression, just to see if I can prove the concept at all, and then work back through. Okay, so this isn't the solution, but it does, by changing from that to from expression to fixed and stopping using the inputs, I can see that the problem is around this field and the way that I'm trying to pull this data through. So that at least tells me that there's an issue with how I'm trying to pull the data through. So I'm going to go to my Gmail account now and look in the sent folder. Okay, so that worked. Here in my Gmail sent folder is the email, and that's what it looks like. So we've tested the principal. Thanks for choosing us to parts now on order. Choose Hazel. So it's signing off by n8n. So at some point I'd want to look at removing that message. Maybe I can do that with HTML. But I also need to fix the issue here. So it may be that I need to do some work on filtering this or getting it into the right format. Let's have a look and see whether we've got any other fields. Okay, so looking for the email. So great, we've tested our workflow and it kind of broadly works. I've tested the concept. And next we have to dig into why we can't send an email to the contact that's on the job. And I still believe, I suppose firstly, I've got to find out why there's an array here. So the square brackets indicates it's got some kind of array. If I look back at the job ID, generated job ID is 43. So if I have a look at this particular job, I've got job contact here. I've also got a billing contact. So I wonder whether that's the two elements of the contact arrays. So again, without a good understanding of how ServiceM8 have structured this information, it's all quite chicken and egg. I'm trying to learn n8n, but I've also got to learn how ServiceM8 have sent the information through. So if I search for contacts, I wonder if I can see, oh, there we go. Okay. So this adds clarity. Now that I know that I'm looking for a billing contact and a job contact, I've searched for the word contact. And so now I can see that although this is described as job contacts, it doesn't mean job contact in the traditional, oh damn it, I've done it again, traditional ServiceM8 version. It's referring to all of the contacts on the job, whether they are job contacts or billing contacts. And now that I've searched for the wider contact word, I can see that there is also ServiceM8 is sending through a type. So that's going to be important to understand down the line, I think. Now, I think also I get the impression that this square refers to the idea of it being an array. So perhaps if I look at it in table format, I might be able to see, and I wonder if I can't search. So if I look at it in table format, data related, okay. Okay, so that kind of implies that maybe that's coming from the client record. So if I just look down this data and let me see if I can find the contact information. So this looks to be the information that it's pulled from the job card, the data from the job card itself. So it's got job address, billing address, completion date. These are all related to the job itself. Okay, and then it's putting it into related, where it's looking at the related information on that job card. So it then adds in the name, the company name. And again, ServiceM8 don't help by having lots of different ways of referring to clients. So in some places they'll refer to clients, i.e. this name, as clients. Sometimes they'll refer to it as customer. Sometimes they'll refer to it as company. So company relates to that name, that's company name. And then it's individual. So it looks like it's kind of pulling related information, which makes sense. And that, in the related area, is where the job contact is pulled through. So we've got the two job contacts, 0 and 1. which both have the email address. So I wonder, okay, I wonder if I can drag from here. I don't think it's going to make any difference. Okay, so if you... So I still think this is going to error. And of course I don't know whether it's because I'm doing something wrong or because there is a problem generally. So let's try that again. Ah, so it worked that time. Now, is it because, I think the difference is it's in related. So when I was looking at it in schema, that's interesting. Okay, I'm going to copy and I'm going to Control A, Command A, and remove that. And then try and do it again. It's the job contact I want to update. Try and do it again from here. So that's... So that looks the same. I have to watch the video back and see what the difference is. Okay, so if I execute that again, that's implying that it's working. Okay. If I change that back to 1, does it work for one and not the other? That's now working. So I wonder why it wasn't working before and now it's working. Okay, I'm going to go back to Gmail firstly to see if those tests have appeared in the sent folder. Okay, great. So all of those tests have come through. So that's now working. And now let's go to the email it was sending to. Perfect. So that worked. This has come to my work email from my personal email, and that's now working. Okay, so we've fully proved the concept. Brilliant. So I'm sending that from the job contact. Don't know what the focus... that does that. Okay. Okay, so now I have a working workflow where if I add a job to the parts on order queue in ServiceM8, it will send a message. So that's very cool. So now next I could work out how to get rid of the sign off. Email was sent automatically with n8n. So let's Google that and see if we can remove this. Okay, so the community is going to be a hotspot of options. Append the n8n attribution. Okay, so let's go back and add an option. Append n8n attribution. Okay, so you have to add it to then be able to see it to then turn it off. So if I execute that step again, and I will go and look at it in my Gmail. Brilliant. I thought it might be helpful to do a quick summary of what I've learnt today. So I've created a new workflow that uses a ServiceM8 trigger and looks for when a job is added to a job queue. I've used then a filter element to filter for the right job queue, and that had more conditions. You could maybe filter for multiple job queues if you wanted one email to be sent off the back of more than one job queue. And for now, I've tested this and got this working with Gmail. I've then also, during the journey, I've found that looking at the information in schema versus table will kind of give you a different layout and maybe different clues, and that kind of looking at the errors and the community were really helpful. Trying different things to prove the concept and then trying to come back seemed to work, although I still don't, I'll have to rewatch the video. I still don't know quite what was different about it not working to it actually working, so I'll potentially post an update on that. And yeah, the fact that you can search for things, the fact that it auto saves most of the time. I know that you can pin outputs. We've got extra options here that I explored, and if you want to test part of a workflow, you can turn off maybe a tool that you haven't quite finished setting up yet, so that was helpful. The fact that you've got these summaries and you can play around with what gets kept and what gets filtered, that was also helpful. And I also found that this box here is case sensitive. I'm sure that you could probably change that if you wanted to. So yeah, we have a first working workflow. Not ideal because it's using Gmail instead of my work email, but I suspect that's more about understanding the credentials that Office 365 needs. So I'll do some further exploration of that and probably come back to you with a report on that another time when I find the answer. So expect a revisit to this video. I was going to call it a tutorial. It's not really a tutorial, is it? It's just watching me faff about with it. But hopefully you've learned something in the process. I know I certainly have. And tune in to see me fumble my way through the next workflow. Thanks for watching.